G'day and welcome to this video. My name is Rob Gowdy from Consortium Private Wealth, and this week we're having a chat about downsizing. I had a really nice conversation with one of my long-term clients who's been still living in the family home, but it's on a very big block. And when you get to your mid-70s and as a widow, it's getting harder to maintain. So had a really good conversation around what the options are, why you might do it, and to try to make sure and hone down to the motivations for downsizing or making a move and selling the family home is well founded, and where they intend to go to is going to be a spot that they're going to be very happy, rather than selling the family home quickly. So made sure that this person was really going to go in eyes wide open and to a place where she's going to be very happy moving forward. This presentation is really all about why we might downsize and some of the considerations. So we'll go through some of the main things to think about and why I think downsizing for some can be a good idea. And for those that definitely don't want to downsize, go to a smaller house, go to a retirement village, how do we stay at home? And in my mind, that's a very simple thing. But firstly, why would we look to downsize? Well, sometimes the house can get too large, and physically and or mentally it just becomes too difficult to maintain. The thought of even the mental side, the thought of having all these things to do and not being able to get to them, from a cost point of view, or the heartache of having to painting done or carpets done, and the effort that it takes to organise, to shift furniture, and all the help that you require. Sometimes it's just easier to do nothing. The cost to actually maintain the house, an older family home, a larger home, can be very high. Another reason why you might look to do it is it gives you the ability to sell a larger, more expensive home and go and purchase something that obviously costs considerably cheaper, and that can boost up the retirement assets to make sure that you've got enough income to do things you want to do in retirement. And one of the issues, particularly for some people where they've lost their spouse, your sense of community and loneliness, where they don't perhaps get the visitors that they used to, where in this scenario the husband's mates and partners used to come round and visit regularly, but since he passed away many years ago, she doesn't have the regular call-ins and people coming to say hi for a cup of tea, and they're bringing them wives to say g'day as well. So living in a large home that was once filled with lots of people, either family or friends, it can be obviously quite lonely. So what are your options? Now, the first option, and this is the stay-at-home option, is where the house is too big, but you can afford to buy in the help as required. The gutters need cleaning, the lawns need doing, the roses need pruning. Just pay for it if you can afford it. And for a lot of people, home is a pretty special spot. The thought of going to anywhere else is not high on the agenda, and you can afford it, pay for the help. And I know finding the help these days is getting particularly hard with labour shortages, but that's an option. If you pay well enough, you'll find good people. Plus there's grandkids and children as well that can help. You can always rent. So sell your home. You don't have to own the asset. You can rent it, and it can still feel like home. The downside to renting is security. The house can be sold and your 1 year lease comes around, and then you can be booted. And that's probably one issue that I have with the Australian system, that having long-term leases like European countries have are just not there, where you can lock in 20, 30-year leases that provide security to know that you can't be turfed out. So renting is definitely an option. I've got plenty of clients that do it successfully, but there's always that underlying fear that, what if I get turfed? Buying a smaller home is definitely an option. Smaller space, less to maintain. A newer, smaller home can be less maintenance. Also, moving to a retirement village. I mentioned loneliness in the past. Some people have that feeling where they just don't have the companionship, the people around them. So a retirement village really ticks quite a few boxes. there's some downsides, but I'll cover off retirement villages in a little bit more detail. But I think it's a really valid option, particularly given some of the facilities they have can be fantastic. So some of the benefits of downsizing is definitely increasing, I suppose your investable assets that can then provide income and increase income. Smaller home, less to clean, less gardening, less ongoing costs, and it can just be simpler physically and simpler, mentally as well. And as we get older, and I've definitely seen this as people get older, and we guide them through retirement into their 80s, that some of what was a small issue or nothing that you thought about when you were 60 become bigger issues when you're mid-80s. So that's an important one to think about. In recent years, there's new legislation called the Superannuation Downsizer Rules that allow people, and this is from the 1st of July this year, they've just been changed at the budget, from the 1st of July 2022, people aged 60 and older, if they sell their home and they have excess funds, they can put $300,000 into superannuation. And so a husband and wife can do that each. So it gives them plenty of ability to top up their superannuation funds, and it's not included in some of the total super balance calculations where you are limited to how much non-concessional contributions you can put in. So the laws have been changed nicely to accommodate. Lastly, the bit I want to just touch on a little bit more is retirement villages. Now they can be expensive to get into, and they can be very expensive to get out of as well. So the contracts and understanding of those agreements is absolutely vital. So when obviously it costs a certain amount of lump sum to get in, and based on how long you're there, they can take many tens of thousands on the way out. Now some contracts I've seen in the past seem a little bit excessive, but it's really not about whether it's excessive. For me, it might be not excessive for some. So understanding the agreements to know what the back end looks like is really important, and that's where seeking advice in that area is really vital. But this is where retirement villages have a strong sense of community. Some of their facilities can be incredible. So we're doing indoor pools, lawn bowls, billiards tables, so a lot of stuff that you just wouldn't have yourself, and this brings people together, and for people that want more people around them, I think they're a fantastic idea, but it's really important that you just understand the agreements and what the back end looks like. And sometimes the sales pitch can look great, and they assume that the value of the asset always goes up, and that we all share, the village shares and you share in the growth. Now, growth is not always guaranteed, so understand the agreements is vital. So when it comes to downsizing as a whole, recommend that you seek advice, and because there are significant Centrelink implications when going from a homeowner to, say, a renter. So there's lots of changes there, and I'd recommend specialist advice if you're looking at a retirement village, to understand those agreements in really good depth. That would be really important. You'd need specialist advice, and that's definitely not me, but there are aged care providers and people that specialise in that area that can help. So thank you for listening. I hope that's a bit of a help, and we'll speak to you soon. Catch you.